This training session is on the John Deere Operations Centre Analyze tools. This recording took place on March 11, 2021. Analyze tools are found up here in the Analyze drop-down menu. And we're going to kick things off here with Field Analyzer.
Okay, so you can access it up here on the menu bar. You can also access it within the fields here. So if I click on this polygon, which brings up the 4 fields I'm going to be working with today, I can click on one field here. This little icon here is Field Analyzer. If you hover over each of these, it shows you, what it is. So you can click on it directly there. You can also get through it through the Details tab. And here we have Field Analyzer as well. And again, it's up here. So they really want you to be able to access these tools. They put them in lots of places that are convenient. If you access Field Analyzer through the field itself, then it will drill down directly into that field when you're on the Analyzer tool. If you access it up here, then you will then make your field selection. So that's just a difference. My preference is I always, if I know I'm working with one in particular field, I go directly into that field itself. So I can do that here. So just to point out a couple differences between Field Analyzer and Field Analyzer Beta. So Beta is hidden up here in Field Analyzer or up in this menu. Those are the 2 access points for Beta. Beta means in development. So this is the tool that they are growing functionality on. I mean, truthfully, all of Operations Centre has been in beta since its existence. But eventually, I think later this year, they will do away with just the plain Field Analyzer and make just one analyzer within it. But right now, we still have 2 functionalities. So right now, we're going to look at just the basic Field Analyzer. Field Analyzer, the information in here is based on images. It's not the actual raw data, and that's the difference between Field Analyzer and Field Analyzer Beta. So while we do have some coverage maps in here, so for example, we take a look at this 2020 soybeans harvest. I've got 5 different map layers to choose from. Okay, that's captured from the display. Okay, so it is simple. You do get some agronomic information here. And then you've got along the bottom your timeline on all the activities. You can access activities by clicking on these icons. You have a drop-down menu here where you can access all the different years and activities as well. You can also change fields up at the top if you wanted to. But one thing I wanted to point out is when you're in here, you do have some editing capability. Okay, these 2 icons here look like they are grayed out, but they're actually not. Okay, so the first thing when you're uploading data for the first time, one of the first things I notice with a lot of growers is they have the wrong year on their setup tab when they're getting ready to perform an operation. So I just wanted to show in this example here. So the year 2020, I can see all these operational dates are listed as actually 2020. This is the date that the task was performed on. This is the date that the monitor was set to on that same tab where you're setting up client, farm, and field, okay? You can change that. So here down in 2019, I have an application that was actually completed in 2020. Now, in Brad's defense, he didn't have this incorrectly. I did this on purpose just to demonstrate. So I can click on this information here, pull up this application map, click the pencil icon, and I can switch that to 2020. That's usually the first thing growers need to look at cleaning up. And it takes a bit, but it will make that change for me here. The other thing you can edit within this Field Analyzer, there is you can change varieties. You could change, what application you applied. You can also do, and I'll just jump to it, some post-calibration editing as well. So now I'm on a harvest map here. I click the pencil icon. And if you know the total dry yield or the total wet weight for that field, you can enter it there. So if something was off just slightly and you weighed it all off, or you know exactly what was completed in that field, you can change it. And it will adjust the map accordingly. So I'm not going to make any of those changes for Brad here. The other thing that you can do is, so for example, this map here, there's a little bit of a corn harvest at the end. I don't know if that was an error or not. But if you have a glitch or an error or something that doesn't make any sense that was captured in your field, you can trash can it. Again, I don't know if that's the case. I'm not going to trash can it, but I just wanted to point out that you could there. As I said, there's several map layers that you can look at. So we'll just go back to this more completed map. And in this case, we've got dry yield contour. When you look at contour in any aspect, whether it's field analyzer or field analyzer beta, it just gets rid of that pixelated image. It makes it more, it looks more like a zone, in my opinion. So I prefer contouring my maps, but you can see we've got some other documentation here as well. You can print any of these maps here using this print feature, okay? And you can zoom in and out. You can see it includes some of the agronomic information as well as the legend, but we're not going to do that today. So just gonna go back. Okay, so we'll move into, now we'll go into Field Analyzer Beta. So the first time you access Field Analyzer Beta, this box pops up, and if just telling you that it is, you know, in development tool and what you can do. If you don't want this to show every time, click this box and click Continue to Beta. All right. Now, one thing I will say, beta is a little bit slower. The reason being it's processing a lot of data. This is the actual raw data that we're working with now. And in saying that, we also have a lot more options to look at maps. So if you recall, we had 5 different options. There's of map layers. Now we have several other map layers that we can view as well. And those differ depending on whether it's harvest, applications, seeding, or tillage. But I just wanted to point that out. So there is more information in beta as well. Okay. Again, up here, you can toggle between fields, and we're still working with Jim's field here. This item here, and we'll use several of these today. Right now, we're looking at an overview map, and I'm just going to zoom in so you can see that a little bit better. Can move it more centered here. We can do some comparisons. We can overlay 2 map layers, and you can look at differences. So we're going to use these 3 here today. You also have the capability to edit the legend as well as play with the contour. So this time, instead of having a contour map, we can adjust the level of contour that we want to see within the map there itself. Opacity, that means whether it's see-through or not, and that becomes useful when you're using the overlay functionality. Okay. Again, anything we do up here, we can export or print, and it just pops up down here into a PDF. Okay. And I'll just show you that there, and then go back to the map. Okay. So just want to show you some tools within here that we can utilize to do some analysis. So in this in particular field, back in 2018, actually, so I'm going to go to 2018. soybean harvest here. And I've got my yield map. And I'm going to, as my second operation, select the 2018 seeding. There's my seeding map there. And it wasn't a prescription, but it was a variety difference. So I'm going to select the 2018 variety maps. So right now I'm still on harvest as my overview. I can see in my data analysis there's two different varieties within this map. I don't have this seeding map up at all because I'm still under overview. But I can change that. I can change that to compare. So with compare, I can see a side-by-side comparison of what the variety map looked like versus the yield map. And if I switch that to overlay, this is where the opacity tool becomes useful. So depending on what your preference is, you got to play with this. I'm playing with the seeding map opacity. I mean, I can still see what's in there. See that map underneath, okay? My harvest map is, fully, full opaqueness there. But you can start to see that there is a striping pattern or difference within that field. Again, there's your data analysis tab. And any one of these you can print or document as well. So one thing I wanted to point out was on the summary tab, there's two menus. So you see a summary of that in particular field. There's a roll bar here that allows you to scroll down to see the information, the agronomic information for the harvest, as well as information for the seeding map. You have the ability also to edit and add some notes, okay, as you're working with these tools. So that's a useful function as well. So you could type in, any comments you see, and then export or print that. Okay. So that's really what I wanted to show on this in particular map. So the next field I'm going to go to is the Northeast Middle. Okay. And in this particular field, Brad ran a fungicide trial and he skipped passes. So he was wondering if that application was indeed useful. Did it have an impact on yield this year? So we're really going to go back in time, and I guess the benefit of having multiple years is you can do this. We go back to 2015 is when he ran this trial, and we're going to look at soybeans yield that year. And this in particular application was applied in 2015 in July. And so you can see both maps, what he did there. So as you can see, there's this yield map on the left. Here's his spraying map on the right. So he only sprayed every other pass. As that's loading, I haven't showed you the fact that you can edit this legend. So if we go into edit here, the legend that comes in Operations Center isn't the legend necessarily that you set up in your monitor, okay? It does just, kind of create its own based on the data that's brought in. But you do have the ability to increase or decrease the amount of different zones you want to look at. You can manually adjust this or type it in, okay? And then you could always restore defaults as well. So you can play around with it. Sometimes, it looks like there's a lot of red, but if you really want to drill down and see where, maybe it was 15 and below, you could change that. So I'm just going to cancel out of that there. Okay. In this in particular field, so data analysis here, we can see that we've got some different as applied rates, including very little, right, or none. And then we've got yield comparisons in those areas. So at a very brief, quick glance, it does look like where he didn't apply on average was 31 bushels per acre on average. And then where he did apply, he had some higher yielding crop in that area. But to really drill down, we can use this polygon tool up here. So I'm just going to overlay this and try and find, so you can see it underneath here. So you can see the different lines there where he sprayed, and I'm going to zoom right in. Okay. And this tool up here allows you to do subfield analysis. So in this case, I could use either this rectangular one, and I could draw, I can draw a rectangle, and it'll give me down in data analysis, it'll give me the information specifically for that section of the field. Then I can move it to, the non-sprayed areas and just do some comparisons and make sure that, what that first overall coverage map was telling me was actually correct. In this case, I know, in speaking with Brad, he was very happy with this trial, and he did find that it was, a good use. Alternatively, so to clear a shape, you just click clear here. Alternatively, we have this polygon tool. So this allows us, you can, in this case, it probably square was just as the rectangle was fine, but you can make any shape you want when you're trying to drill down and do a subfield analysis within the field. And again, it drills down to the data for the 2 map layers you've got here that are in that field. Okay. So the next one we want to just demonstrate is where we had a seeding script in place. So I know here in Rick's field, we did back in 2020. So I'm going to show you soybean harvest from 2020. And again, the yield map. And we'll go to the seeding map here. And in this case, I could look at as applied, I could look at target rate. They actually have the prescription rate as a map coverage as well. And we'll show compare so that you can see both of those. So this in particular field had a different vari blocks in it. So they were testing a variety of different seeding rates, and then had test blocks in it as well to see if they were in fact right. Again, this was a year where Brad was very happy with the results, and the decisions made were the right decisions. Again, you can overlay these, but I just wanted to show you that you can actually look at that. And you can see down here all the different rates that were applied and the different average yields. So without having to do, you don't have to go in and draw these blocks and polygons, but the information is listed down below. Right? So you're going to find examples that you want to do in your field, any trials you've done and so forth that are going to make more sense to you. These are the tools that are available. There's all sorts, as you can see, there's all sorts of map layers that you can play around with and get the data from. So I want to take this time then to show you here. Many don't realize we've got, or you do realize, but haven't realized how much it's changed. We do have a prescription creator within Operations Center, and that's through a partnership with Agrian. So it does take us outside of Operations Center into Agrian here. And hopefully it pulls up. There we go. So we can create either an application or a seeding prescription or a tillage prescription if you're using TrueSet technology. Again, here's our field selected. So we've got the right field, got the right boundary. It'll automatically choose the active boundary. Got different options here, however, when you're creating your prescription source. So you can pick an in particular field operation. So we'll just, if you have one in particular field operation you want to create it from, you can do that. And it, that's creating a script in its very simplest form. You can hand draw prescriptions using polygons and different shapes. I myself, I've drawn a maze, a corn maze for someone, and which worked out well, actually. The average yield, though, is, I know what many were hoping that we got to, and it's now capable of doing that. So you can select which years you use. So if, 1 year, maybe your harvest map was only partial or something, would skew your average because it was a, really off year, then you would exclude that. You select it by crop here. But I also wanted to point out that once you select, even if you just select one, you can create it off of many different layers or map layers. So if you're doing it based off yield, you can select yield here, moisture. It could be elevation. If you're collecting RTK data and you want to make a script based on elevation, then you should have good elevation maps in there. If you're not using RTK, then I would steer clear of elevation because we don't capture depth with the others as well. So let's just select, actually we'll go soybeans and select the last few years, and we're going to do it based on yield. So I'm going to click next. Okay, so based on an average yield, these are the zones that it has created if I want to have 5 zones. 5 may be too large a number, so I can change that here to 3 zones and update my map. And there you can see what it's recommending. You can change your minimum area if you have, you don't want a zone smaller than a particular size. So once we're happy with our zones, we can add the varieties here. And it's going to give me the varieties that are available from my products that I've got recorded on my setup. And now based on the colors, you apply your different seeding rate to the different zones. Okay, so, maybe we've got, and I don't know that these rates make sense for what these zones are telling me, you would know better. But you would input your seeding rate there and click save. Okay, so your new zone will be available in files and just asking you to what you want to do, and we'll save and close that. So it's fairly simple to create one. I know back maybe 5 years ago when Agri and Prescription first came out that they did actually plant a prescription in Ricksfield using this program. But at that time it was still very basic and based only on one yield map. So now you've got a lot more flexibility in that. I see it took me back to the files tab here. So here's where you could take that prescription and you can either download it to the data manager and onto the USB to pop into the screen, or if your machine is equipped with wireless data transfer using JD-Link Connect, then you can transfer it directly to the equipment. Okay. So going back to the analyze features, we've covered off field analyzer and field analyzer beta. I want to show you analyze itself. This replaced agronomic reports for those who recall using agronomic reports. It has a lot more filtering and capabilities than the agronomic reports did. So up at the top here, we've got, what is we want to look at. So let's look at our seeding. And we'll look at from 2020. It does default to one crop, to wheat, it seems, but if you want to take a look at all the varieties that you planted back in 2020, we can look at different views either by fields or by varieties. Okay. Here are some filtering capabilities. So, I mean, I'm only working with 4 fields, so I don't need to do much filtering. But there's more filters here I could look at as well, different date ranges. But what I really like about this is that we can export it to Excel. So you can export it to PDF, whether detailed or summary, or you can export it to this XLSX. And as a Excel fan myself, I like working with the data and, more so hands-on that way. So I just want to show you a couple of functionalities here in Excel. So, all right, now you can see my Excel sheet. Okay, so as you can see, the information downloaded into Excel. There was enable editing up here that I had to select, which I already did. But I just wanted to show you this filter icon. So if you click on the top row that has the heading for every column, and then up here to sort and filter, and click filter. This is just, just a tip if you're not familiar with how to create filters. So now you have the ability to, maybe I just want to look at Ricksfield. And in Ricksfield, he only had 1 variety last year. If I want to look at Belaxfield, okay, multiple varieties in that field last year. So just wanted to share that with you for those that may not be as familiar with Excel. It's definitely a great feature. So I'm going to go back to the Operations Center now. Okay. So that pretty much covers off everything I wanted to as far as Analyze, Field Analyzer, and Field Analyzer Beta goes. We've still got lots of time. I do want to just cover off Machine Analyzer. So Machine Analyzer here is where you can go in and look at reports pertaining to any piece of equipment that has a cellular connection with it. And I don't know if many probably haven't used this tool. So can look at we use this black filtering menu here to, if you've got multiple pieces, you can look at everything at once if you want. Up here are the different types of reports. Now there are some preloaded, but there's a lot more options if you click Add New View. So these are, you create a name for it, whatever you want to call your custom report there. Let's call one Combine, and now we go in and we select what it is we want to look at for that combine. So I'm going to check, engine hours, not necessarily anything in there. What's utilization? So you could check off whether it was idle or working. Okay. As far as like auto track, you can look to see if auto track or row sense or have actually been utilized, if that's a concern of yours. In this case, harvester usage has several for combines here. So if you want to look to see how long it sat with the grain tank full, not full, was it waiting for the grain buggy to get there? How much downtime is that costing you? You can start to go in and analyze that kind of stuff. So we just click save. Now I have combine as an option here, and I could go in and look at that whenever I'm wanting to. And then you see all the different headings I added across the top. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. That's for connected machines, but something you may be interested, whether it be fuel usage, engine usage, or whatever. So. The next thing I want to show you, I guess one of the last things I'm going to show you is this work planner. So we didn't have a separate session on planning, but I do want to show you work planner because it has completely changed since last year. So I'm just going to go into that here. Now, full disclosure, for work planner to work as as it's intended, it does have to operate with Gen 4s only. But we have the ability in Work Planner to be able to create the setup file basically for specific tasks that are being completed in the field. And again, like I said, it operates with the Gen 4 primarily, and we actually need to install the March update, which is coming out in a couple of weeks for the Gen 4 to fully utilize this tool. But because it's new, I just wanted to take a moment here to show it to you. So again, you've got your season up here, which it defaults to 2021. Let's create maybe a seeding plan. So I'm gonna go into here. I'm gonna select my crop, my variety. We can add additional varieties, okay? Not worried about a tank mix because, in this case, I'm not going to be applying any fertilizer at the same time. I can add more details here, including the machine, the implement, operator. I can send out specific instructions. Okay, maybe I want them to enter the field over here, or whatever that's just a free form. You can hand type anything there and click next. Okay, so what field am I doing this for? We'll select Rick. Next. Here I can communicate my rates even, the guidance, if I want to include all the guidance lines. I can add a prescription. Now it sees that prescription that I just created. Now that was a soybean prescription, so it wouldn't make sense here, but I could actually communicate to the operator that that's the prescription I want to use. And then you click save. Now, once I've done that, I have this planned work ready to go. I can send that to the equipment. So this isn't something we've used yet. I just wanted to demonstrate and show you a new feature in here. It's my understanding the operator still has to go in and just accept that and actually use it. But it's supposed to pre-populate everything that you set up in there for them. So if you're finding, you need a better communication method, or there's errors made in data entry that's causing a lot more cleanup than you'd like, then this may be a great tool to use. And for Brad's sake, I'm just going to delete that. I pointed this out last week, and I know there's some new others on the call that weren't. Just want to point out that we've got this help feature up here, including release notes. There was a release on the weekend. So we see here that there's a recent release note there. So if you want to, stay on top of what's changing in it, then, review that area. We've got how-to videos, which take us directly to YouTube. And here, for those that missed the setup session last week, if you're wondering how to set up some of the, how to create a setup file, etc., there's lots of videos in here on all of the functions in Operations Center. We've got contact support, so you can contact Deere support team directly. And I know several have used that tool and they're pretty good at getting back. So you can send your inquiries there. Help documentation. I like going here because I like reading through instructions as opposed to videos. It's just my personal preference. But you've got different, you can browse content here, you know, how to manage the land and all the different articles here. You can do keyword searches if there's something, you know, you don't know what this means in Operations Center, you could do a keyword search here and it'll pull up all the articles. And then lastly, feedback. So for those that, you know, wanted to see the as applied maps when you're harvesting, send that feedback. Feedback, they've indicated, is it's kind of like a voting system. So the more requests they get for something in particular, the better. So me asking and, you know, is one thing, but if you guys all share that feedback as well, that's how it's going to get heard more prominently. Okay. So that's everything I wanted to cover in the Analyze tools. We've got a few minutes. We're about 45 minutes into the session. I'm happy to take any questions. Jim and I are around afterwards if you want to speak more one-on-one. We're happy to do that as well. So please reach out to us if you're trying to find something or if there's a scenario you want to run, and we can work with you on that.